Okay, so in today's really cutthroat business world, right? Every manager is looking for that edge, that, magic formula to get their team really firing on all cylinders, creatively speaking.
Absolutely. Boosting innovation, that's the goal.
And you immediately think of, well, the usual stuff. Brainstorming marathons, maybe some new software.
Or even trust falls, who knows?
Maybe.
Hmm.
But what if the real key, the thing that unlocks it, is actually something much more, well, fundamental, something deeply human?
That's exactly where this fascinating research comes in. There's this growing evidence showing that storytelling, believe it or not, can be a really potent catalyst for team creativity.
Storytelling. Okay, that feels maybe counterintuitive at first glance compared to, say, data analytics.
Right. But we're going to dig into the work of Tuliano Dominguez da Silva and Rafaela Cerdán Rodriguez. They've really investigated this connection rigorously.
Okay, great. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack what they found. How can these, I guess, seemingly simple narratives make such a big difference in generating new ideas?
And they didn't just, philosophize about it. They
No.
used solid methods, experiments, surveys across different kinds of workplaces to really get a handle on the phenomenon.
Excellent. So let's jump in. How does telling stories actually translate into, well, more innovation? What's the link?
Okay, so their central finding is really striking. Storytelling significantly boosts what they call innovative work output, uh, IWO for short.
IWO. Okay, what exactly does that encompass?
Think of it as the actual results of creative work. So, how often and how well employees come up with new practical ideas, and crucially, how often they actually implement them, bring them to life.
Okay, so it's not just brainstorming, it's the follow-through. Ideas that actually get used. Got it. But
Mhm.
how? What's the mechanism making stories so effective here?
Yeah, the how is key. According to their research, the main driver is inspiration. That's the bridge.
Inspiration. Okay.
And what's really interesting is they break it down further. It's not just one thing. They found two distinct phases of inspiration that stories seem to trigger.
Two phases.
Yeah.
Right, tell me about those. That sounds important.
So the first phase is what they term inspired by. This is more passive, more receptive. You hear a story and you genuinely appreciate or internalize the new idea or perspective within it.
Uh-huh. Like a light bulb moment, almost.
Oh,
Hey, that's a neat way to think about it.
exactly. It plants a seed. We humans are kind of wired for narrative, right?
Yeah.
Stories can create this narrative transportation. You get immersed and you become more open to the message inside the story.
So you absorb the idea more readily because it's wrapped in a story?
Precisely. And that initial appreciation, that inspired by feeling, often then flows into the second phase,
And
debate.
inspired to. That sounds more active.
It is. This is where it gets dynamic. It's a motivational state. It actually
Yeah.
drives employees to take those ideas they just absorbed and actively think, okay, how can I apply this creatively to my challenges, the problems I'm facing right now?
I see. So it's not just admiring the idea, it's feeling compelled to tinker with it, to use it.
You got it. They feel this urge to do something with it. And that emotional connection stories create. It also helps with retaining the information, making those new ideas stick around longer.
That makes a lot of sense. Is the difference between just nodding along and actually feeling fired up to try something new yourself? Did they have like a concrete example in the research that illustrates this?
They did, yeah. A really good one, actually, that most people know, or at least know the product of. They used the story behind the invention of Post-it notes.
The classic 3M story. The adhesive that wasn't sticky enough, right?
Exactly, that serendipitous discovery, the accidental innovation that turned into this huge success.
Yeah, I can see how that story would be engaging. What specifically about that narrative did the researchers find effective?
They pointed to a few key things. First, the characters, the scientists involved, they were presented as relatable, showing that innovation isn't some mystical thing only geniuses do. It can come from everyday work.
Right, not some detached figures in lab coats.
Exactly. Second, there was a clear conflict. The adhesive failed its original purpose. That creates tension. And third, a satisfying resolution, finding this completely unexpected but incredibly useful application.
Conflict, resolution, relatable people. Classic storytelling elements.
Precisely. Those elements made the story easy to follow, emotionally engaging, and crucially, memorable.
And what happened when they actually tested this? Did people who heard the posted story behave differently?
They did. The results are pretty clear. Participants who watched a video telling that Post-it story, they showed significantly higher levels of innovative behavior in subsequent tasks.
Like what kind of tasks?
Things like creative categorization exercises, finding novel ways to group objects, and also tackling complex problem-solving tasks. They were just, well, primed for more innovative thinking after hearing the story.
Wow. Okay, so it really does have a measurable impact. This suggests, then, it's not just about telling more stories, but about the kind of stories you tell, quality over quantity.
Absolutely. That's a major point in the research. The frequency isn't the main thing. It's the quality, the relevance, the authenticity of the story that matters most.
And what makes a story quality or relevant in this context?
Effective stories are the ones that really resonate personally with employees. They need to connect somehow to their own experiences, their daily work, the challenges they face. That deep connection sparks emotional engagement, and that's what boosts the motivation to innovate.
So like a super polished generic corporate video about the importance of innovation probably won't cut it.
Likely not as effectively, no. You've hit on a really critical point there. The research found that authenticity is paramount. When managers share genuine stories, maybe from their own careers, including the bumps and failures, not just the wins,
Yeah, the failures can be powerful too.
incredibly powerful, or anecdotes that really illustrate the company's core values in action, or tackle industry-specific challenges everyone recognizes, that's when people lean in. That's when it feels real and impactful.
Okay, that makes sense. Authenticity trumps polish. This seems especially crucial in fields that move really fast, like tech or software development, where you constantly need new ideas.
Exactly. In those sectors, fostering continuous innovation isn't a nice to have, it's essential for survival.
So what practical steps do the researchers suggest organizations, particularly in those fast-paced areas, should take to actually use storytelling effectively?
They recommend several concrete actions. First off, targeted training for managers. Help them actually develop their storytelling skills.
Right, because not everyone is a natural storyteller, even if they're a great leader otherwise.
Precisely. It's a skill that often needs cultivation. Second, they suggest consciously weaving storytelling into the fabric of the organization,
How so?
like systematically incorporating it into team meetings, sharing recent successes, or even lessons learned from things that didn't quite work. Using stories in training sessions to illustrate points, or in specific innovation workshops to spark creative thinking.
Making it a regular part of how teams communicate and learn, like sharing a story about overcoming a really tricky bug in software development, could inspire others, maybe.
Exactly, that kind of thing. And third, think about capturing and sharing these stories more broadly.
How would that work?
They suggest creating internal platforms, maybe like a digital repository or an internal blog, where successful innovation stories, the challenges, the solutions, the people involved can be shared across the whole organization.
Like building an internal library of inspiration, a collective memory of innovation, wins, and lessons.
Yeah, exactly. It helps build and sustain that innovative culture over time.
It sounds incredibly powerful when done right. But are there potential downsides, pitfalls managers should watch out for?
Oh, definitely. It's not a silver bullet. The researchers caution against over-relying on it or doing it poorly.
How could it backfire?
Well, if stories are badly delivered, if they become too repetitive, or, crucially, if they feel inauthentic or manipulative.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, oh, here comes another one of those inspirational stories.
Yeah.
It could feel forced.
Exactly. It can totally diminish the impact. Employees might become skeptical, disengaged, if they feel they're just getting the same old narrative spun again. Authenticity, again, is key.
It's about finding the right balance.
Absolutely. A thoughtful balance. Managers need to be selective, choose stories carefully, and invest a bit of effort in crafting how they tell them.
And maybe check in with the team about it.
That's another great point the researchers make. Actively seek feedback from employees. Are these stories landing? Are they relevant? Keeping that feedback loop open helps keep the stories fresh and impactful.
So it becomes a dialogue, not just a broadcast, an ongoing part of the culture.
Precisely. It's about integrating it dynamically, not just treating it as a one-off tactic you deploy now and then.
Okay, so bringing this all together, it really feels like this research highlights the kind of transformative power hiding in something as basic as sharing stories. It's not just fluff.
Not at all. It's a strategic tool. When managers get skilled at telling authentic, relevant stories, they can genuinely lift their team's innovative output.
Which ultimately contributes to the organization's success and, its competitive edge.
That's the bottom line. In today's world, that sustained innovation is absolutely vital.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Consider the stories that are being told, or maybe the ones that aren't within your own team or organization. Are those narratives actually fueling new ideas? Or could they, maybe unintentionally, be putting the brakes on? Definitely something powerful to mull over.